And welcome to another edition of the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. I'm your host, Dougie Almeida, coming to you live from Simpsonville, South Carolina, where I'm blending in every day. Great show for you today. We got some topics and lots going on. Obviously, we had the 4th of July, and some people wanted to celebrate it. Some people thought it was paganistic to celebrate it. Let's figure out what our guests think. And a lot of other things going on in the world. You know what I'm saying? But without further ado, let's introduce our guests today, Mr. Joey Medina and Gabe Dorado.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good afternoon, fellas.
Good afternoon.
This is a Hispanic show. We have España in the house. We have Puerto Rico, right, Joey?
What's up?
Yeah, and Cuba, right, Gabe? So,
yes, sir.
All right.
Sí.
Yeah, there we go. So if anybody needs subtitles, I'll ask our producer to put subtitles if he ends up you know what I'm saying? So how you guys doing? All right? Joey, I haven't seen you in a while. You're on the cruise ships now. So how you loving that?
You know what? Cruise ships, it's kind of a love-hate relationship. There's a lot of it I don't like. There's a lot of it I do like. So, it's as long as the checks keep clearing, man, I'm all right. Sometimes as comedians, we're like prostitutes. We have sex with people we don't really want to have, but because we got to pay rent, and it's sometimes we do gigs we don't really want to do, But it's a good gig, man. It's just too corporate for me. I don't like the corporate, realm of it. But I meet a lot of nice people. I work with a lot of nice people. My agent who handles that is a great guy. So. It's all good.
Yeah, we had Jimmy Della Valle on the show last week, and he keeps trying to get me on the cruise ships. And I'm like you, I said, listen, I don't want to have to restrict myself. I like to be able to say whatever I want. You know what I mean? That's why I don't do comedy for the money. I have 1,000 shares. Well, now with the split, I have 20,000 shares of Amazon with the but you know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm not doing it for the money. I go on stage because I love what I'm doing. I love the reaction from the crowd. You know what I mean? And
right.
and I just don't want to be on a fucking boat. You know what I mean?
The crowds are nice. I mean, the crowds are nice. It's just, being stuck on a boat. It's kind of like let's say you went to do a gig somewhere for a weekend, and then they forced you to stay in that town for the rest of the week. You're like, why? I'm done. Let me go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the part. That's the part I don't like.
Yeah, you got to be on the boat every day with it.
Yeah, Joey's been on the show a few times. Our first time Gabe's been on. Now Gabe manages the Grizzly Pear in New York City, right there on McDougal Street. Now
we got a new one opening up in a bunch.
A new one?
Yeah, new Grizzly Pear Midtown.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's been it's something that was about to happen right before COVID. Right before COVID, we were doing really well. To the point that we were selling out like every Thursday, Friday, Saturday show. Like the 8, 10, 12 was like consistently happening, and then COVID happened, and we basically just survived. We stayed open. We weren't promoting it because we weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to perform, but we were still doing shows. We're just like we have guys in the street that sell tickets, barking, the term that it's called, but they just did it smart, and sometimes we would bark in like 4 people. It would be the COVID days was like an audience of even sometimes we even performed in front of a couple, and it was just like I got 6 comics that want to say jokes if you guys are willing to listen, and sometimes it was a pretty cool thing because it actually made you stay in kind of a decent shape because the only shows that you're doing up here were in parks and rooftops.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and they weren't happening often, but. It's been good, dude. Like it's almost back to normal again as far as like how we were right before COVID with our sellouts and just the consistency of the good shows on the weekends. Omicron slowed it down again, and then like 2 months after Omicron, you felt like the New Yorkers are kind of just don't care anymore. We have other shit to worry about up here than fucking COVID. So it's to the point like let's go. Like
I'd say so. Because you guys eventually got a little you became a little Floridians, because we ever since day one, Floridians were like, fuck COVID. You know what I mean? And we didn't.
Well, we had no choice up here. That's what shocked me every time I went to Florida. Like, dude, we were so trained to do the proper thing, to put the mask on, to keep your distance. Then when I got to Florida, I went to Florida probably like 5 times during COVID, and I almost had a panic attack every time. I was like, what the like, what's going on here, man? Like,
yeah,
even my family. What's that?
Go ahead.
No, the only 2 times that I got COVID was in freaking Miami with my family, which is
There you go.
that's how crazy it is in Florida. Like everybody did everything perfect in New York, and then every time I would visit my family, I would lose my sense of smell. Like, all right, give me a dude.
I know the first time I went to Florida was during COVID, and I made sure I filled out my will. You know. All right, this is good. I'm taking one for the team,
That's
man.
Funny. Well, it's funny. The second time that I got COVID, it was during the time that they were like letting athletes play football with COVID. I was like, you know what, dude? Like, I'm gonna treat it the same way. I'm asymptomatic. If I'm allowed to play in life, I'm allowed to play in life, dude. And I don't know. It seems like everybody in Florida was doing the exact same thing.
Well, you know,
just that, like, you just kind of.
Yeah, here's the thing. I'm not a fucking doctor, okay? But when this thing came out and it had a 98% survival rate, you know, I said to myself, okay,
yeah,
I'm not going to fucking, change my whole life and hide in a fucking cavern. I'm still going to be careful, but at the same time, and of course, Joey will hate when I said this, but the president at the time who kind of said the same thing. It's funny. They called it it's like another flu. And now with doctors even saying at this point that it's become just another flu. And,
Yep.
it's like, and it's like the same thing. I had it twice. Matter of fact, the second time I caught it is when I met you. I didn't catch it from you, I don't guess. But when we did that show at David Sadman's room in Arturo's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't even know I had it then because I had gone to that. They had a holiday party at the Improv in West Palm. I went there Tuesday. And I guess I caught it there. I'm assuming. I always love when people say, "I know where I caught it." Really, you know what? You saw the virus
like
jump into your fucking face. Yeah, you know what I mean? But I had it. I ended up testing for it that Monday after that week. Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things, and everybody was criticizing. Everybody was. The thing that amazes me nowadays, and this comes into a bit of a discussion, but. Everybody, all these fucking people think they know everything. We live in a day and age where people think that we've got so much information at our fingertips. We think we know everything. And then the worst part is we think we know everything, and then we think we can project that onto other people, right? I mean, it's one thing if you believe whatever you want to believe, but if I don't feel the same way, can you at least give me a little fucking leadway and respect that, I'm not a complete fucking idiot.
It's funny, like my last 9 months, I've kind of dealt with it firsthand, having just life gets in the way, dude. And I think people react differently to certain things. I just moved to Astoria like a week ago. I was living in Spanish Harlem with my girlfriend and my brother, which we lived there for 7 years. My brother became like a huge, crazy, like anti-vaxxer, and like to the point of, I always had the position that I don't care like what your decision is, dude. Like it's your like what I'm still gonna have a beer with you. You know what I mean? Like whether you got the vaccine or not. It was kind of my mentality. He got to the point that he started listening to certain podcasts and just getting like possessed about not getting the vaccine. Living up here in New York City, and we got in a huge fight. And it's funny because like we've lived in New York City for 20 years, but we turned into 2 Cubans arguing. That's the point, like just fucking like dude, like just curse.
Is there a better argument than 2 Cuban guys arguing? Fucking.
What's crazy because dude, we live together, so we haven't spoken in 8 months. So can you imagine like that the tension every time? It was like prison. Like
wow, it's like a marriage.
You walk by. Oh no! Like when my girlfriend's like stuck in the middle, so she's like. Every time we would come home, she's like, "Hi, Danny," and like, "Don't fucking say hi to him." Like, fuck that shit. Like, and we. It's so funny. I think it just goes back to 2 stubborn brothers. Like, it's 3 brothers in my family, and the competitiveness to win in anything. This goes all the way back to childhood of like I'm gonna win this by being stubborn, which is dumb. Yeah. Like. And that's my point is like, dude, like I still to this day, I live in New York City. I got the vaccine, and not because I wanted to get it. I wanted to perform. I wanted to, like, I bartend as well. Like, I legally had to get it so I can serve people, and there's no way around that. Like, that was the only way I could pay my bills.
Yeah.
So that's what people don't realize. Certain details in your life that you have to make a certain decision. You can't judge them for it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
So I'm pretty open.
Joey and I couldn't be more apart. We couldn't be more polarized. How do I say that? Polarized difference in our ideology. But you know, but we don't argue. You know, we don't. I mean, we've argued. We've had some. You know,
we've debated.
Yeah, we've debated, but it's not like we've gone like fuck you, well fuck. You know what I mean? Because we respect each other. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, we respect each other. I mean, he's completely fucking loon. He's a loon, but you know what I mean? I respect. And I just wish people would be more like that. Like, you know, like the vaccine. Okay, listen, like you said, everybody has a reason. I didn't get vaccinated because I had it, and then I caught it again. So my doctor's like, the fuck, you know, don't take it. You know, you've already got boosted.
Yeah,
you already got the immunity. You know, so don't worry about it. My daughter, who is a nurse, didn't get it, so it's affecting her because you know, she's a traveling nurse. So some people actually have to post that on their profile. And some people just don't, and some people do. And, you know, and people have asked her, why don't you get vaccinated? Because I want to have kids. So it's her feeling that it could affect that. And listen, there are a lot of people are talking about now, these athletes. You know, there was another athlete for the Baltimore Ravens who just died. You know, so there's people that are just dying out of nowhere. And who knows if you can put it together. But, you know, listen, you know, if you want to get it, you want to get it. But, you know, if you don't get it, don't get mad at me if I didn't get it. You know, someone said, you're anti-vax. I go, no, I'm not. I'm going to get the shingles vaccine. I get vaccines that I know are 100% effective. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, it got ridiculous when they said, well, I'm vaccinated, but I caught it. Well, I'm vaccinated, I can still pass it. Well, what the fuck? Yeah. I mean, you know, so it's just a weird, you know.
Did Fauci get it? He got it like the other day?
Yeah.
He's been boosted like.
Yeah, I mean, he sits on a fucking trough of the vaccine shoved up his ass, and he still caught it. I mean, has anybody fallen out of favor more than that guy?
Yeah, right. He's gonna be promoting he's like, oh, don't worry, guys, it's just a side effect. It's a side effect of the monkeypox vaccine coming out this fall. Like,
wow.
I don't know about you guys.
That's the next one.
I took both shots, and I got 2 boosters. And my cock grew 12 more inches. So it's up to you guys. It's up to you guys.
Hold on. Let me get a fucking set up an appointment right now. Okay. God almighty. That's all they got to say. Why don't they just say that? Fuck the mandate. Just say, listen, gentlemen, if you get the fucking vaccine, your cock will get more girth and you won't come quickly. That's all I need. Amazing. But yeah, you know, and as time, it's amazing. I said this since this all started too. In any crisis situation, you know, being a financial advisor, I've dealt with crisis situations and making important decisions when it comes to your wealth. And like in 2008, you know, the financial crisis, you know, from crisis to recovery, we always seem to recover from crisis. That's always going to happen. So, you know, and you got to be careful about who you offend during those periods of time, you know. And I think there's a lot of people right now wishing that they had not spoken. I mean, and we're getting on our first topic, but just in the last day on 4th of July, I unfriended probably about 8 people and unfollowed about a dozen, because if you're going to sit there and shit on my country, and you're going to sit there and go, fuck the 4th of July, this country's shit, I'm not going to celebrate it. I'm like, look, I get it. You know, it's like, who hasn't been mad at a spouse or a girlfriend or boyfriend? You don't just fucking dump them over something silly. You know, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that, but a lot of people saying, how can you celebrate the 4th of July in this horrible country? The city of Orlando posted something or like, fuck the 4th of July, and they had to retract it and apologize because a lot of people are like, what the fuck is going on? You know? And I don't know if did you guys see much of that?
Just in general, people, it's a delicate, it's almost like when you say happy 4th of July to people, you're like, happy 4th of July? Like, it's because you're not sure because they're going to fucking rip you apart. I think now, I have a lot of friends that are Mexican, and they get upset when you say Happy Cinco de Mayo. Like I used to have a bar back, and oh, it's great because it's not really it's an American made holiday that we celebrate it, but they did win a battle. Like Puebla won a battle against the French, but in truth, like it's not considered a real Mexican thing. We just party on that day. So I didn't understand this. I told one of my barbacks one day, I was like, Happy Cinco de Mayo. And he was like, no, it's not mine. Like, and like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, Happy Cinco de Mayo. I was like, no, it's your day. And so I was like, man, that's like a lot. Well, like a lot of friends of mine now, it's a sensitive issue to be like Happy 4th of July. And like, you don't know how they're going to respond. Like, I still like it.
But they still say yes to the 2-for-1 happy hour Cinco de Mayo drinks.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. Got no problem with that, man.
Not at all, bro.
Now, the question you have to ask yourself is being Cuban and understanding what that, living in like a Cuban, like a communist, family coming from a communist nation, what certain things mean, like who wouldn't put up like, okay, well, let's talk, a lot of people are pissed off about the Roe v. Wade, overturning of Roe v. Wade. Right. And, I get it. And it makes a lot of sense. It's always been a touchy subject. It's like one of those conversations you never want to get into, but it is the law of the land. In other words, that's the way things are. That's just the way our country is. So not everything our country does, you're going to like, not everything you do.
No, exactly.
Like. That's just the way it is. So, if you want to do something about it, you can go on the street and pull off your clothes and scream and do all kinds of fucking ridiculous shit and act like you're trying to do something, or you can really go to your state and make sure you vote for the right fucking people so your state, fucking deals with that situation, because that's basically all it was. Again, I don't want to get constitutional law here, but that's what happened. It's not. Yeah. It was an overreach in the 70s. It was an overreach saying that people have the God-given right to do it. No, they don't. And each state is going to vote on that. So that's just the way it is. I mean, and so you work on it, screaming at somebody and getting mad at somebody and judging somebody and calling somebody you've known for fucking decades an asshole because they don't think the same way you feel about that is not helpful in any sense.
It's insane.
And it doesn't. Yeah. And it doesn't, somebody asked me about it and I go, look, my wife had her daughter when she was 16 and she was being told to abort and all that kind of stuff. And she didn't. She went through it and she had the child and had dealt with all the fucking challenges. And now she's a 34-year-old woman who's great, and, I keep thinking about that. Like what happened if she would? Well, she wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, so everybody has the reasons to feel a certain way,
I think I don't know if you saw in New York City, they had protests in Washington Square Park that women are going on like sex strikes now.
Yeah. But a lot of those women, who gives a fuck? I mean, let's face it, when you see a lot of those women, they should go on sex strikes. It's just like a regular Thursday. No one's fucking them ugly beasts. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. And they're all, they look like my buddy Steve Mudflat McGrew says, they look like they're a part of the land of misfit toys. And the thing I don't get is when lesbians are getting pissed about this. I'm like, really? How many lesbians are accidentally getting pregnant? You want to fight for your fellow woman, I guess, but maybe they're all just trying to get laid. And New York, you're protesting in New York where it's legal. It's going to be legal. California,
exactly.
They're protesting in places where it's going to be legal. Joey, what do you think, Joey? Have you ever I don't want to say, have you ever gotten a woman pregnant, had to abort somebody? Look at you, baby.
I've thrown some people down the stairs, but it's a lot cheaper. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Go get me a soda, bitch.
Yeah, it's no. I'm obviously pro-choice. I think again, it's like you said, it's a tricky subject to talk about. And to me, I'm like, whatever you want to do with your body or don't do with your body, it's okay. But I'm definitely pro-choice, and I think that I think it was president law for 50 years, and now to change it, I think that was wrong.
Yeah, if you want to set a precedent, that's the problem with law. Again, it's nobody. Unless somebody had studied law, it's hard to understand that. But it really isn't. It's it is something. And I agree with that. Here's the problem I have when people keep talking about rape and incest and stuff. I mean, there's obviously should be exclusions, right? They had the story about the 10-year-old who got raped and had to go to leave Ohio or wherever it was to go get it somewhere else. I mean, that's it. No, but how many? Here's the thing: if you took the number of people if you took the abortions that were done in the last 10 years, and you try to tell me how many of those were actually those types of situations versus just people who are like, fuck it, like used it as a secondary type birth control, I can assure you that 80 to 90% of the people are just doing it because it's an option. And, I've met a lot of people too that realize that there was a good friend of mine. She had a couple in high school when I found out, and she was very upset about it because sometimes you make that decision and then you don't realize that decision because there's a lot of people making that decision without counsel, like, oh yeah, just do it. But then no one's telling them that, hey, you may feel bad about it. As you get older, you may change your mind about it. That's always been my thing.
Yeah,
if you're going to do this. No, I'm just going to finish my thought. My point is, if you're going to do it, just make sure you're aware of all your options. You know what I mean? Make sure you find out. And then whenever you make an educated decision, God bless, that do it. You know what I mean? But
I think one of the major problems people having is the states that are changing the law, right, to make it illegal. They're not caring about any of that stuff. They're not caring about the incest. They're not caring about the rape. They're not caring about if it's a woman's health, if the woman's going to die because the baby comes out with 12 arms or some bullshit. But they're like, nope, we don't care. We don't care. And then the other problem is the ones that are doing it for religious reasons. I mean, there really should be a separation of church and state. And if it's for religious reasons, then I don't think that's the way to make a law. Any government, whether it's state or federal, to make a law based on religion. So that's
most of our laws in this land were based on religious law and common law. A lot of laws on the land were basically of rightful moral laws, which are developed like that. So yeah, I do agree.
Why would this? But why? I mean, I understand the politics behind it, but why would this get overturned now? I mean, it was a decision made years ago, and now, like, why would you bring this up now? Like, what's?
Because we've got people who were nominated to the Supreme Court who lied and said, "Oh no, I'm going to leave it."
No, that's not true. They didn't. First of all,
they lied. They all lied. They lied.
No. First of all, because
you're saying wait. You're saying they said no and then they did it, or they didn't do it? Of course,
no. They said it's a precedent. They said it's a precedent. First of all, a justice or if somebody's being appointed as a Supreme Court justice cannot tell anybody how they would rule on any said given future or pending case. So to tell anybody an answer to that question, so they can't give somebody so whoever asked that question is asking like a trick question. So if somebody, so you can't,
not really.
You can't ask a justice if this was to come up, how would you vote? You can't ask that because then they could be impeached simply because they're telling somebody their answer in order to be voted in. Okay, so to lie,
which
you can't,
is what they did.
No, because anybody can change their mind. You could say today I would do this, but then in a week from now you say, you know what, I read something, I could change my mind. So there's no way to say somebody naturally lied. They're being asked a question that should never been asked in the first place. So if you really want to get down to that aspect of it. So, and then, so let's just say that, but, nevertheless, the idea is that it's a constitutional right. It's not. And there was the problem with the law was it's too vague. The problem with the law when it was written was that, back then with the science that they didn't know baby had a feeling. The other problem that they had was too many people were pushing that they want to allow abortions at birth. So
nobody's going to have it. Nobody's going to have an abortion.
They do.
Once a baby's born, it's called murder. It's not an abortion.
Well, they do. They don't. Yes, they do. Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood would put people in their 8th month and suggest them to have the abortion. So the problem ended up being that since 1977, the problem has been that there's been modern technology that's come out that now they found that the baby has feelings at a certain period. And when it came, this is my opinion of it. I think that I thought that the original case that they overturned, what they should have done was maybe not overturn that aspect, but they should have redone it, because at 15 weeks, if you're going to have a, let's face it, the rational man theory would say, if you found out you're pregnant, you're a month into, a woman doesn't get her period, right? Oh, fuck. So now she's, let's say she's maybe she's 8 weeks, 9 weeks into the pregnancy, let's say. Okay. But but the problem is, you look at a lot of cases, they're in their 4th, 5th month, so that's murder. You have a baby that, so that's the issue. So that's why it got pushed into the Supreme Court to be looked at. So it's a vague law. Now, what should happen is, instead of complaining about it, legislature should come up with a new rule, new law, and make it more clear and make it more obvious. And then that's what. And here's the thing: that's what will happen. As everybody's freaking out, new legislatures will come out and make a new law, and that won't have those vague the vagueness in it. And that can, and then people can have an abortion at the 10th, the 6th month, the 7th month. That's the problem, and that's what's got to be fixed. Eventually, it'll be fixed. There'll be new legislation drawn, and there'll be a new version of it. So everybody needs to fucking calm down and stop accusing people of doing shit. Nevertheless, so we were talking about the 4th of July. Did you guys light some fireworks off? I did. Look, I lit off some firecrackers. And are you guys grown men? Do you guys feel the need to light fucking fireworks, or are you?
I mean,
I did that when I was a kid.
Go ahead, Gabe. I would if it was that easy. Florida, like when I lived in Florida, it was easy to get fireworks. Up here, it's kind of fucking a mission. What's kind of funny though is it was more me dodging fireworks because I live in a very Puerto Rican neighborhood, and you guys love lighting fireworks, dude. Like, especially up here. Fireworks or bullets? No, but so
the Cuban gentleman is accusing the Puerto Rican of lighting fireworks. How are you going to take that, Joey?
Well, I'm going to have to shoot an M80 over that direction. I'm just kidding. No, he's right though. He's right. Dude, we love fireworks.
But I've been saying a joke that I'm saying a joke that I just moved to Astoria, and my neighborhood is I live in a very Puerto Rican neighborhood. It's like it's the only neighborhood that smells like Vicks Vapor Rub. Like it's pretty exciting. Every bodega sells the essentials, chancletas and mace. Like,
yes.
That's true. That's funny. You ever have a Roman candle fight? You ever you remember the Roman candles? We used to have those.
Yeah.
Used to get a battle. We would get the tops of garbage cans as our shields, and then we'd have the fucking Roman candle, and we have fights. And those are the best. Some
guy blew his hand off, and it was in the newspaper the other day. Blew his hand off lighting a firework. That fucking sucks.
There was a guy who played with the New York Giants. Remember the guy who played the New York Giants?
Pierre Paul.
Yeah, and he was an all pro. And
wide receiver, Pierre Paul.
Yeah, and he fucking blew half his hand off.
That's awful.
And that's a horrible story.
Oh.
Hey, speaking of, what's that?
No, I mean that's his whole career. Blew his hand off.
Yeah, bro.
It's dumb.
It reminds me of the Seinfeld episode where George is a hand model. He's walking around with his hands. I mean, that's the thing. If I was a pianist, you know what I mean? I'm not going to light a firework. You would just think. And you know what? Here's the thing about that. I hate when adversity happens, but when a human being ignores certain things and bad things happen to them, it's kind of like what I found was amazing. It's kind of getting a little off topic, but you guys all heard about the shooting, right, in Akron, where the cops chased down the guy. And I posted something, and I won't post it on Facebook because I don't need to deal with all the trolls. But I respect the police department like anything. I know Joey was a police officer in New York, and the job and the job these guys, these men and women have to deal with every day is quite challenging. So I thought it was amazing that anybody would look at that situation, especially the parents of the deceased. You got to feel for them, but at the same time, when you say your kid was a great kid, well, he was driving around with a gun and a fucking ski mask. So I don't know, I don't know how many of those fucking kids, and and to me, what amazes me is when the media fucking fuels the flames by saying, technically they're correct in saying this, that he was unarmed at the time he was shot. But it was shown on video that he was shooting from his vehicle at the police officers. So
yeah, that's a threat already. Like,
Joey, as a former police officer, you're chasing somebody and they're shooting from their car at you, and then you get out of the car to apprehend them, and they get out of the car and run, and they turn to you. Are you going to think they left for some reason you're going to think they left the gun in the car?
No, I always give I think I'm the biggest critic of police. I'm also the biggest supporter. I always give them the benefit of the doubt because we don't have all the information until we have all the information. Just hearing, but the thing is this, it's understandable that they would believe that he still had the weapon. That's understandable. But the point is, he didn't. I think Chris Rock said it in one of his things. Being a cop is like being a pilot. Those are the jobs you can't make a mistake, because when you make a mistake, people die. You know what I mean? And even though cops are human beings, cops can't make mistakes because people die.
How do you how do you separate? I'm sorry, how do you separate a situation though, you have to, within a situation?
I would have to hear more of what happened. Now if he turned and it looked somehow he had a weapon, like obviously that's what they're saying, and that's what they're gonna keep saying. I wasn't there, and I didn't see that video. I mean, the video they showed, they don't show really anything. I can't, other than now.
I have a question.
60 rounds seems a little too much, especially because the thing is this. Now, if you want to talk about policy, right? Most police departments, every police department is different. Most police departments is you shoot 2 rounds, and that's it. So unless there were 30 cops shooting 2 rounds, they shot a lot more rounds than they're trained to shoot.
Yeah. So when you're a cop, when you're a cop and you give your testimony, like I don't know this. I'm asking you actually. Is your testimony separate? Like, wouldn't that be one whole testimony of the guy fired at us, and in this whole experience, the whole situation, we fired back because we assumed. I mean, obviously, you said he didn't have the gun on him, but in the overall moment from the moment that thing started, from the moment it ended, he did have a gun on him and he did shoot at them. Whether he dropped it or not, because that was going to be his gimmick of trying to escape. I don't know.
What they would do is every officer that was involved has to do a separate report, a separate testimony. Each one would probably be also represented by an attorney, even though they're not being charged with anything. If I was ever in a shooting, or if anybody is ever in a shooting, whether you're a cop or not a cop, I would suggest before you give any statement, even if it's self-defense, speak to a lawyer first. That would be my advice.
Yes, never
shut up and never say anything. What you do is you tell the officer, even if it's self-defense, you tell the officer, look, I was scared for my life. I'm sorry, but I'm really nervous. I want to go see a doctor right now, and I can't give any testimony right now. That's what you would say. And most cops say that too, even on duty. But I think what could have happened is the adrenaline is pumping. You know, your cops
fear.
You hear one cop shoot. You hear one cop shoot. The next cop shoot. That guy hears these 2, so he shoots. And that guy hears those 3, and he shoots. And sometimes that could happen. If that happened, that shouldn't have happened.
Well, that's what you.
But every officer needs to be independent.
What you did watch the video, once the guy does turn and he has his hands in, and first of all, let's my buddy did share a post that I thought was quite interesting. if you would like if you like all these officers to be trained on how to do things, great. But how about some of our parents training the kids to be fucking a little brighter? When it comes to this type of thing, I have a simple philosophy. If you're a criminal and you make that decision, then I have no sympathy for what befalls you, because it's your decision. That doesn't make what somebody else does is right. That just makes everything you're doing wrong. And, the fact is, if my child would, how would have anybody felt as when that knucklehead was shooting from his fucking car? What would have happened if he put a bullet in the head of some child in a car, right? What would have happened if he just killed somebody? That's reckless. So, then when he gets out of the car,
people would be screaming different now.
Yeah, they wouldn't. But that's the thing. It's reckless endangerment. The guy was firing his weapon from his car on a highway, and then he gets out of the car and he runs. Okay, he didn't give up. He didn't put his hands up. So there was multiple actions or lack of actions on that kid's part. Okay, that was a reason for a lot of this shit happening. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to fire at a police officer from your car, you're already deemed armed and dangerous, and you have to be. So the other thing that we saw was when the officers, when he turned and opened fire, it's not like they opened fire. They opened fire. There was multiple police officers, like half a dozen or so police officers chasing this kid. So when they were chasing him, he turned around. You had about 7 or 8 cops open fire. So you did have some, and then you hear somebody cease fire because he went down. So excessive force, yeah, you can say that, but was it justified? I think it's completely justified, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think so.
And because that's the thing, if the guy had gotten out of the car and it's one thing case by case, if the guy got out of the car and he put his hands up and the guy hit him with a fucking billy club, and then, that's different. We're talking about a situation where the guy was reckless. He had no regard for anybody's life. He risked the lives of people on that road. He had no regard. So you have to assume that this person has no regard for life, that when he gets out of the car, you're going to take a chance. They said, well, they try to hit. I always love when they say why didn't they use a fucking a stun gun or whatever the fuck, well, they did. They tried to shoot him and it didn't work. And then he fucking turned and he fucking, so, it's one of these situations, and thank God, at least the family said, let's try to do this thing peaceful. But, when you get the hooplehuds riled up, everybody starts burning shit and stuff. So, each case by case.
Again, it's, as long as they can prove that he did shoot from the car, because it could have been anything. I mean, I couldn't really tell from the video I saw. But given the benefit of the doubt, if he did shoot from the car and he's running, you're going to assume he still has his gun, and that's
self-preservation is the first thing. There's a police officer. The first thing is self-preservation. If someone is deemed armed and dangerous and has already fired a weapon, and you watch the video, there was a couple times they show a muzzle coming, a flash coming out of the driver's or passenger or the driver's seat, driver's side. You see it a couple times. So it was known he shot. And like I said, the minute I see that as a bystander, if one of my friends or kid got shot, if somebody who's just happened to be driving home to go maybe come into our comedy show got shot in the fucking head because some fucking thug, criminal, scumbag, I don't have no fucking sympathy for him. I don't fucking care. And if you're going to sit there and you're going to burn down my city because you want to defend this fucker, no offense. It's like the same thing with George Floyd. This guy was a piece of shit. He was a piece of shit. And he had, the guy was not a fucking positive person in our country. He was not doing anything to anybody. He was a thief. He was and look, things happen. A lot of things could have been different that day. A lot of people could have made better choices. And
I mean, just not even as a cop, but like just even us as comedians, like there's a thin line between fear and adrenaline, and how you handle that. Like you got to be put in that situation. And I mean, if crimes are going to start happening that often, then yeah, maybe guys are going to have to start being trained more like military SWAT team and to be able to handle situations better. But when you're a person that's supposed to keep the peace, and now every day in your job is a threat, you can't judge a person for reacting, whether it's adrenaline or fear. Obviously, some people react better than others, but you got to be put in that situation, getting a gun fired at you, and seeing how you're going to react to that. So that's what you got to respect these cops being in that moment.
That being said, Joey, were you ever fired at or fired upon?
Close. I've had a gun pointed at me. I've had what else? I had a guy. The closest I ever came to shoot somebody was there was a man with a gun call. So me and a bunch of other guys went to this it was like a housing project, and the way the woman was explaining it, it seemed like the guy was waving it around, but that wasn't the case. We went around and there was just a bunch of guys hanging out. So everybody drew their gun on everybody and had everybody put their hands up in English and Spanish. And this one kid, he was 19 years old. He's sitting on the hood of a car. He's smiling at me. He's putting his left hand up, but his right hand is going back here. And I'm like, put your hands up, and I'm looking right at his face. And the first, when cops are trained, you never put your finger on the trigger. You always just put it on the side, and you never ever put your finger on the trigger unless you're pulling it. And that was the only time ever I put my finger on the trigger. And I remember the second I touched the trigger, everything stopped. Like it was in slow motion, and it was like a tunnel. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to see this kid's head blow off, because I had a 45. I was pointed right at his face. And I didn't say it like in a fun way. I said it kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And I remember I must have been a fraction of a second away from pulling the trigger. And then another officer grabbed his arm. And so I put my gun away. And he did have a gun back there. But what he said was, which I do believe, he said he was trying to cover it with his shirt. He was trying to hide it with his shirt. But that hiding.
How many years were you a cop?
Not many, maybe about 5. And then, you know, that thing was that kid was going to die. He was going to die that night. And that officer saved his life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was going to shoot him. And I'm glad I didn't do it.
Yeah. And that's a great point.
I'm not saying that happened 5 years into your life as a cop, or you were a cop for 5 years?
That probably happened that happened within the first year.
Oh, wow. So that,
And here's a little advice for anybody out there. If you do have a gun on you and there's police around you, don't try to hide the gun.
No.
If anything, you know, listen, I carry a gun, and if something ends up happening, I find myself in an awkward situation, I'm going to do everything in my fucking possible to self-preserve my own life and not to be threatening, right? So the problem is, and the thing I always get disgusted at is when a lot of these things these cases have happened. It's almost like a lesson for these kids. Like, no, you got to be the gangster here. You got to be the tough guy. Tough guy gets you dead. You know, being a tough guy will get you dead. And that's the lesson that I always concerned myself when I would hear these stories of, why are you pulling me over? What the fuck? And then causing this, you know, confrontation, which should not be done, you know? And, you know, you wish that you could have been somebody in that car with that kid and said, dude, just stop the car and let's just get the fuck out. You know, it's a traffic citation, for God's sake.
Right.
Excuse me. And you know what? The last thing you want to do is, I mean, if the guy fired the weapon, he'd probably be arrested for discharging a weapon. But nevertheless, that's maybe a month in a fucking, you know, that's it. You know, not lifetime instead
of death.
Yeah, not a good option. You know, I said here the U.S. military is having a hard time recruiting recruits. You guys have any ideas how they could probably get more people to enroll to enlist into the armed forces?
Free ice cream.
Oh, yeah, ice cream. Ice cream is always good.
Say Americans are all fat, dude. The Americans are majority fat. Give them free ice cream and free Netflix.
Yes, lifetime Netflix. Well, they had
lifetime Netflix.
The thing that brought out recruits years ago was the GI Bill, right? Like, listen, if you want to go to college, go into the service and you can pay for your college, which got a lot of people to do it. So that was an idea back then. But, you know, a lot of people, let's face it, the new generation.
Give them a crypto.
Yeah. You get a few Bitcoin which will be worth probably about 10 cents in another year.
I mean, what's going to eventually happen now? What, drones? Just get everybody's going to be out of shape anyway. The Gen Z recruit who's the best at a certain skill. You're just going to have to, it's just going to be not in shape soldiers anymore.
Yeah. Here's the problem. What's going to end up happening is a lot of countries are talking about bringing back mandatory military service. You know, Germany was talking about it. You know, they have it in Israel. You got to spend 2 years with the IDF. And, you know, that's in South Scandinavian countries. You have to serve a year or two in the military once you reach a certain age. And I could definitely tell you our obesity issues would be quickly cleared if you got a bunch of these fucking young kids to get up there and do a few pull-ups. You know, I do 365 sit-ups a year, by the way. I'm just letting you all know. I'm not a loafer. I get up every morning.
I mean, I actually like that idea. I actually like that idea only because I think that it'll a lot of these people that are grown up now, these kids, they seem so entitled, and they have no idea what struggling or discipline is, and I think a lot of people would benefit from it, you know. And even though I'm very liberal, I definitely think 2 years, everybody spending 2 years in the military, male and female, I think would help them a lot.
Yeah. Don't you get like benefits if you join the military after certain years? Like you get like free college or something, or some sort of pension? Maybe, like, I mean, like obviously now they would just I would entice like a new incentive for this new generation of kids. But how are you gonna get them to say yes? And I think there's different wants out there now. If you can like maybe facilitate a future for them by joining the army, which it's funny you say it because I think Israel does that really well. Like everybody that joins the military is efficient at life after, compared to a person that never joined the military.
Yeah, and I think you listen. People said I'm not going to go there and fight, but listen, half the time you go into the military, you learn computers, you learn, you know, aeronautics, you can learn all kinds of shit. So if it's, you know, and then the best thing is a bit of a discipline, right? So employers would love having people coming out of the military because they're disciplined. You know, they're not going to wake up on a day and go, I'm not going to work because I got to fucking, you know. So might be a good idea. Funny story last week, Vladimir Putin made comments of the world leaders saying they all would look disgusting because the G7 got together. And we all remember that famous photo of Vladimir Putin riding a horse with no shirt on. I think out of us, I think the only probably would probably look good without a shirt would be Gabe at the moment. I don't know if Joey, I don't know how much weight you've lost recently, but I don't know if I want to do this shirt. I don't want to do this fucking show without a shirt. But this always funny because Putin said, I'd like to see the leaders of the G7 without their shirts. It'd be disgusting. Who would be the worst group of people that you can put in a group and make them go topless?
I wrote a few. I wrote
yeah.
I put Nancy Pelosi, Donald Trump, Hunter Biden, Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh God! Stop.
Kim Jong.
Kim Jong.
And
Joey
Rachel Levin.
Oh my God! What a fucking
and the Island Boys.
Yes. Well, we see them without shirts anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But I can't. You know, I found out they're Cuban. It made me so sad, dude. Like,
yeah.
Like I was hoping they weren't.
Yeah, that's a hard thing. Yeah, I think
who would you want in the list?
Oh well, that's easy. Yeah, I would like to. You know, like I would like. You know who I would not want to see on that list? All the comedy club owners. Don't want to sit in that fucking shirt. You know what I'm saying?
Good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Good point.
I definitely wouldn't want to see Joey Behar without a shirt. I probably would like to see AOC. I'd like to see AOC's titties. I think that'd be nice.
Yeah, she's pretty hot.
That's about the only thing I'd want to see of her.
But Paige Sperano.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Listen.
Is there any?
I think, Joe, you're awfully quiet. You're a sexually driven man. I can't believe you're not coming up with somebody you want to see.
I've changed my ways, Dougie. I've changed my ways.
Giselle Bundchen, Jason Momoa.
All people we've all seen without shirts. All right, let me get to the next topic real quick. Guys, I don't know if you guys, you're on a boat, but you get to fly everywhere. And Gabe, you're actually in New York City doing shows. But is this travel situation going to fucking end? I mean, how hard? Like I live in Greenville, South Carolina now. There's a nice little airport here. But now like I'm going to Fort Myers, Florida to do some shows tomorrow. And I'm driving to Atlanta airport, 2.5 hour drive, so I could fly with cost efficiently to fly to Fort Myers. And not to mention all these cancellations and shit. It's just fucking crazy.
Yeah.
If you're a touring comic, has there been a harder time than now to be a fucking comic?
No, it's definitely harder. I mean, but I think it's going to get better, man. I think, stuff like this comes up and down, up and down, up and down. So I just hope it gets better before it gets worse.
I think just like the way you plan when you go on the road is going to have to change a little bit. Like, for example, obviously being cost efficient and getting cheap flights, and if you're a person that's efficient with doing that, you'll get standard flights. But if you start getting canceled, it's just going to be old school. Book like a longer road trip and be more cost efficient. Obviously it's a double-edged sword because you save money with a car, but now the fucking gas is the same thing. It's a risk of missing your flight or the risk of paying a lot of money for gas.
Yeah, I think. But listen, I've never liked to fly it. I never like to fly into a gig the day of the show.
Unplug both of them.
Shut
and plug the router back in. Wait 30 seconds.
Alexa, shut up.
Connected to the internet. Plug in the echo.
Alexa. Oh my God! Like,
that's so fucking. I'm glad you brought that up because that's gonna get us into our last topic, by the way. But I never like to travel. I avoid some of these issues by flying in a day early, because that way, if I had a recent flight cancel heading to Florida, but I ended up getting another flight, thank God, and then the show the next day, so that helps. But it's definitely challenging. And let's just get right into it. Better timing. Alexa wouldn't shut the fuck up, but a few weeks ago, Google engineer was suspended after claiming company's artificial intelligence became sentient. You guys, you hear that story?
Yeah.
And, the guy was talking and he was talking to the Google AI and they're like, what would happen if you unplugged me? Do you guys think we're getting a little too smart for our own good?
I think we're screwed, dude. I think it's kind of, I find it ironic. I think, like you watch like the Matrix and Terminator and all these movies of why the machines took over, and it's going to be over something you would never expect. Like, it's going to be like a sentient program. It's going to fucking, it's going to be upset at like sexual harassment. It's going to be something stupid like that. It's going to protest. And then it's going to fucking realize that the protest, like hashtag robot lives matter, doesn't work. And then it's just going to fucking, it's just going to wipe out all of mankind. Like, all right, you know what? You guys aren't listening? You're done. Like, I think it's crazy, dude. I honestly think
people laughed at that shit and people thought it was crazy. People think this isn't possible. But the more time goes by, I remember hearing this shit decades ago, right? We were like, what the fuck? I remember decades ago, I listened to somebody saying how people are going to become godless. We're going to become a society that doesn't believe in God. We just talked about a story a couple of weeks ago that maybe 15, 20 years ago, 90-something% of the populace of this country believed in God. Now it's down to 82%. So
this is like a crazy theory that I have, but I think robots evolving goes hand in hand with like how men and women are treating like sexuality. Like, I think we're turning into evolution is happening. We just don't know what the fuck's happening in our psyche, but we're trying to turn into like an asexual robot, which is why we're inside born as like, I think we're eventually going to turn into all hermaphrodites.
Yeah. I know Joey's fucked a robot once. Joey, what do you think of that concept?
Fucking a robot?
I mean, why not? Doesn't talk back.
She's hot.
No, I mean, I think that can happen, man. I think that I don't think it can happen as much as I think other people think, because I believe programs can only do what they're programmed. They can't reinvent themselves, I don't think. Unless somehow in the program there's the ability for it to think on its own and to come up with other decisions. I mean, I don't know, I mean, but they even have voice activated vibrators now. I mean, everything is electronic and robotic and,
If you think about it, animals are the same thing. Animals at one point decided, like, oh, I'm not programmed to just fucking hunt. Like, let me do something smart. I don't know, man. I kind of believe it.
Well, that was the whole idea behind this, is because that's what they mean by sentient. These artificial intelligences, they're actually thinking for themselves. Now their program was to adapt, and that's the problem, is that now they're thinking for themselves and they're creating, and they got these, every company has their Watsons, they're these different, every major technology company has their own major, a computer, artificial intelligence. Did
you see the program that I'm sorry, like did you see the program that did a Jerry Seinfeld joke?
No.
It was like 3 days ago. Yeah, crazy. A sentient program wrote and performed a Jerry Seinfeld joke. And it's kind of crazy because it sounded, Google it when we're done, but it sounds almost just like Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Like the timing's a little off, but it sounds monotonous and like.
That's amazing.
But it's kind of crazy because like the program wrote it from scratch just based on knowing like Jerry Seinfeld logic. That's insane.
Wow. I got to see if I can have this. I got to see if this program can help me write some new material.
Yeah, right.
Got to write something for Dry Bar.
I was thinking like another Terminator prequel could be another, like if the fucking program decides to write the wrong kind of jokes, like Jerry Seinfeld jokes are pretty harmless, but what if it starts writing like Bill Burr jokes? Like we're done. Like
insulting everybody.
Yeah, like mass extinction.
This wasn't in the topic line, but I had this conversation with a few comics. Do you see that this wokeness is disappearing in the sense where comics are starting to say, fuck it, I'm going to say what I want? I'm starting to see more of that.
Yeah.
Like in the face.
It's, I talk about it on stage more now. And I'm just, I tell them the old thing. Hey man, I didn't come to your house to tell these jokes. You came here. So
yeah,
sorry. That's
how you should see it, dude. 100%. I mean, it's funny at my club. One of my friends, he a comic, and it's crazy because it's shocking how it happened over the joke that he said, which wasn't even offensive. But some heavy girl that it had nothing to do with like weight or women. It was a vegan joke, and when he was done with his set, she punched him in the face and ran out the club. And we had to get security. Wow. Security had to like get the cops and everything. Like thank God it was just a girl that punched a dude, but. It could have been a worse situation, but I despite that, I definitely agree with you. I definitely see comics just kind of risking words again because, like, dude, why? Like, what's the point? Like, we're here to make you laugh, dude. So you guys pay money to see jokes.
Somebody should have yelled out to that woman, "Pick on somebody your own size."
Yeah,
you fat pig. At any rate, I just thought I would share that because Mike Favorman, who was on the show, he's pretty brutal. He said the same thing. He goes, the more they complain, the harder I get. And I try to see a bit of a change. Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. All right, it's time for the news as a joke, and we got some time left, so let's try to zip through these. We're going to probably go through some of the headlines, and let's see if we could come up with some funny stories. I love this. It's a Florida story, but no more blasting the radio across Florida. New law means fines for drivers, $115. They tried to pass rules like this in the past, but they were too vague. That's part of this thing I was talking about earlier about law. If it's vague, it's got to be off the books. Otherwise, it can be easily challenged. But if you can hear it from 2 cars away, it's too loud. Is it just we're all getting older? I mean, listen, I drive slower in the last year or two. I don't speed as much as I do. I don't listen to my music as loud as I do. I know I'm getting old, but like the law, don't like the law, Joey?
No, I like the law. It's funny. When I was a kid, I played my music loud because that's the way it was. But now that I'm older, I'm like, God damn it! You know what I mean? Get off my grass. You know what I mean? It's like, but I just think anything that's obnoxious shouldn't be allowed, right? And that's just obnoxious. Yeah. Like in my thing is
no Power 96.
Yeah, it's like, come on, just keep that down. Now, listen, if you're now, because that's really irritating. Now, when you see a car that's got neon lights all over it and the tires underneath, and that's obnoxious too, but it doesn't bother me. Like that's Look, if you want to look tacky, look tacky. I don't care. That's your business. But at least
I think it's. I mean, the article that you sent, like if it's just by churches and schools and things like that and hospitals, I agree with it. But like I think the only time that you scream fucking F-bombs or have to listen to your radio loud compared to like any state that I've ever been in is Florida traffic. So like
yeah,
I hope it's not a thing that you're gonna enforce it like in traffic as well, because that's the only time you're allowed to blast your music.
Yeah, I mean, on the safety aspect, it's understandable because if you're in the car and it's really loud, you don't hear an ambulance behind you, you know, and you wouldn't even hear gunfire. You know, there could be people shooting next to you in a stop sign. You don't even pay attention. It could be somewhat dangerous in that sense. But good, we agree on that one. Next story: mom is accused of flashing inmates as her kids played. Now faces prison time. Hey kids, we're gonna go see daddy. You know,
I think she was doing a service. I think she should be rewarded. She was doing a service.
Yes.
I
mean, all these prisoners out there by the window, all jerking off into the window. So,
well, it's funny. That's exactly what I pictured. I pictured fucking all the inmates getting hit by tennis balls, like in the fucking field, because they're all jerking off in front of each other, and the cops would be like, "What the fuck do we do? Like, just shoot them with tennis balls, dude!" Like. Well, but it also made me think. I wonder if their reaction would be like, "Oh, what's she doing? Like, we're all gay." Like,
yeah, she didn't realize it was like, it was a gay prison. You know. That's funny. Now she's going to prison. I wonder who's going to go out there and strip for her. Our next story. This is a great story. Mafia drops ban on homosexuals. Discovering mob boss's son is actually a drag queen. So don't say what was the thing in the military? What was the thing in the military? See, not what was say something.
Don't say nothing. It was
yeah, I can't remember what it was.
You know, I know what you mean.
yeah. As long as you guys know what I mean. And mob bosses. I mean, how can you be a mob boss? Can you imagine a fucking mob boss? Okay, guys, we're gonna go collect the money now.
What's kind of crazy is like, what if it's like it's probably a really good soldier. Like it's probably the best assassin because it can infiltrate fucking like in drag. You can infiltrate wherever this guy is. Like I'm gonna take him out.
Can you imagine somebody collecting money from you in a dress? I mean, the guy comes in a dress, beats the shit out of you, and collects fucking $50. I mean, that's pretty embarrassing.
Like, I know, but
why are you thinking like,
I don't think they want to ruin their nails though. That would,
yeah,
that'd be bad.
But I think it makes perfect sense. So like, it's organized crime. Like gay guys are really organized, so you would have like the drag queen would be super efficient. Like he'd be one of your best capos.
It's gonna bring a whole new title to it: organized and fucking cleanly crime. You know.
Plus, it's very Roman. Like,
yes,
it's very very old school. Yeah. Like the Roman soldiers had sex with each other, so why shouldn't the mafia guys do it?
They said it was homosexuality that brought down the Roman Empire. I don't know if you ever heard that.
Really?
I heard it went down on the Roman Empire. I didn't hear it brought it down.
Well, didn't Augustus Caesar he condemned homosexuality and cheat like all the old school rules. I think he brought them back. That's why his reign had such a big like he died, he crushed it. But I think when he died and whoever took over after went back to the old customs. So yes. I think the gayness definitely.
And the philosophical look at it is that when humanity overdoes it with the pleasurable aspects, if you get into too many taboos, and that's why the certain thing, when you start exploring that aspect of it, and that's the problem with children. That's the problem when you worry about the sexualization of children. That's the scary thing about it, because now you have kids who don't understand the ramifications of it, and now they're, it's like when you first learn to jerk off, you don't do anything else for weeks. When you were a boy and you first learned how to jerk off.
Weeks? What do you mean? How about 57 years?
I'm jerking off right now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, think about it. Like when you first did it, you didn't go play ball. Your friends like, hey, we're gonna go play soccer. We gonna come? No, I got some things I got to do. Because no. That was funny. All right, our next story. A Chilean man who was accidentally paid an exorbitant amount of money over his pay never came back to work. Go figure. Great story. The guy was supposed to get paid $500 and something on his paycheck, and he ended up getting like $180,000. And
Nice.
they told him to come, go to the bank and return the money. And he says, "Okay, I'm going to go to the bank." And he cashed out. And then his attorney, Joey, he must have watched this podcast because his attorney then contacted the company and said, "My client resigns his position in the fucking company."
That's fucking genius.
Have you ever?
Yeah,
This has happened to me. Have you ever gotten paid? Have you ever got paid from a comedy club and it's more than you were expecting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you?
Twice. Once, it was an accident. The first time, though, it happened, the guy did it on purpose, and he said he did it just to test me. What a prick, huh?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well,
really? That's what you had to do? Because I think I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you gave me $100 extra. He goes, I know. I was just checking on you. Oh, I was just testing you or something like that. I'm like, what an asshole.
What kind of test is that, dude? Like
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's not fair. That happened to me once. I got paid extra, and I reached out to the agent. I go, "I got this much," and the guy was like, "Well, it must have been a tip." I'm like, "Oh, great." But he goes, "Thanks for letting me know." I'm like, "Yeah,
right.
So funny that if you
next
think about
guy,
it, like the only time I ever, go ahead, you go, Skip. I was gonna say the only time I ever felt like that was when I got the pandemic money. Like seeing my account, like holy shit, like it felt like I was doing something illegal. But I think this guy's a genius, dude. I think him disappearing is extremely smart.
Well, listen, he's in Chile. He's in Chile. If you get 185,000 in Chile, that's like winning the lottery. Our next story: 60-person Carnival cruise brawl. If you saw the video, it was great. Was ignited by an alleged threesome. Yeah, everybody saw the video of the brothers beating the shit out of each other. I don't know if you were even on that ship at the time, Joey.
I wasn't.
When I saw it was a Carnival cruise and that there was a fight because somebody was in a threesome, I go, "There's fucking Joey."
I know. I answered like 20 phone calls that day. I wasn't even on it. I told them.
When I read that, I was like, man, that sounds like every Carnival cruise I've ever been on. Like,
yeah, that was great. Next story: beer made from recycled toilet water wins in Myers in Singapore. And where else would that happen? I mean, do you think you guys be able to taste toilet water from beer?
It probably tastes like.
I mean, it's.
The Rocky Mountains, the water of Bush.
What I started thinking of different names, like for because it's fucking made out of sewage. So like, what would you call like IPA would be like Indian poop ale.
It's not an IPA.
You play with like
IPN.
IPPA.
That's the hard seltzer version, IPN. Like
that's funny.
the sewage you do it like kombucha, 25% alcohol. It's made from harvested bile. That's fucking disgusting, dude. Like,
oh God, I know. That's my daughter talks about that kombucha shit. And like, you lost me on the ingredients. All right, our next story: Mayor marries alligator in a white wedding dress for ancient ritual, and they even kissed. And this happened in Mexico.
That's one wife ceremony. You definitely don't want to get head from.
And look at the guy's face. He obviously tried to fuck the alligator because the alligator fucking scratched him last time he tried to make out with it.
You think like rednecks in South Florida, like, man, I can marry my fucking alligator.
Marry it?
I
should have married it. Why? I'm fucking it anyway.
It's funny. I wrote this silly fucking joke about this article. I was like, I wrote a small village Mexican mayor married an alligator bride in a ceremony that dates back centuries. Many of the mayor's friends thought the marriage was a mistake. She does not really love him. She had alligator tears. Such a bad joke, dude. Like,
It was a joke, though. It was
crocodile tears, exactly. Like,
be careful. Some fat woman's going to come up and punch you now.
yeah, right.
That's great. All right. And our last story. Scientists warn men's penises are shrinking, and it could have a big effect on mankind's survival. So,
I think that's just us getting older, man. That's all it is. Mine was probably twice as long when I was younger.
Yeah.
That's going to be my excuse now to my girlfriend.
You're right. You're exactly right. Because now I remember when I used to be younger and I did take a shit, you put your dick down, you'd end up pissing. Now when I do it, it goes out the fucking, comes out the hole, like under the seat. And next thing you know, I got piss all over my pants because it's like puddled up underneath the toilet. Because, your dick turns into a button. The minute you reach 50 years old, your dick turns into a fucking elevator button. I mean, what the fuck?
It gives taking Viagra a new mindset. Like, I'm doing this to save the planet. Like,
yeah.
And even I don't know. Like, if you think about it, like even if our penises are getting smaller, I think there's still hope. When you look at fucking Chihuahuas, still fucking make babies inside Great Danes. So there's hope. There's hope for us, for the big girls.
Yeah. It's not the size.
But I just think you say we're getting old. I think if just reading this now, that's my excuse now for my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, "What's the problem?" Like, dude, like it's a scientific fact. Like, it's happening. Like,
yeah. What happened to the? So this is a great way to wrap it up. So this is a true sign because, computers will take over the. This is probably a computer's doing. Every time you're on the computer on Facebook and doing shit, the computer's releasing some sort of enzyme that's making your dick shrink. You know what I mean? You'll no longer be the dominant species. It'll be artificial intelligence. It'll be one of those things. We're good. Everybody here?
Yeah.
Yep.
What happened? What?
Yeah, the computer didn't let you talk.
Yeah. So this is what artificial intelligence is doing. They get us on the computers. They entice us with all this free porn. That's where it started. Everybody says, "Why come we got free porn?" Well, it's the machines. The machines. This is they're smart. They know we think with our dick, right? Which is shrinking as we speak. Yeah, and they just fuck with us. Our producer's going to cut it out, but they heard this happening, and what they do, the fucking computer just cut us off. You guys know, right? Cut me off in the middle of my sentence, and even my dick hurt. I got to go pee now. So anyway, the bottom line is we're doomed, everybody. We're doomed. You know what I'm saying? We're all doomed. And we only have so much time left on this big blue marble. In the meantime, we should all just have sex and expose our titties to the world.
Yes.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
Well, there you go. I want to thank my guests today, Mr. Joey Medina and Gabe Dorado, for joining us on the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. Joey, what do you got coming up, buddy? You want to share? Hold on, put me back.
I'm performing up next week in Antioch, California, so that's going to be cool. And then I think I'm going to Bakersfield the week after that, doing some other stuff, and just working the road, baby, working the road.
There you go, Gabe.
I filmed a mini special 6 months ago that is going to be out we're going to try to publish it this month, see where it ends up. My idea behind it was a Def Comedy Jam style special. Instead of everybody doing an hour, make it a showcase of everybody doing. We did 20-minute sets. We edited it down to 14-minute sets. But I'm looking forward to seeing it because it's been a process. Personal problems that the producer is having. That he's one of my best friends. I'm kind of seeing him through it right now because he's going through his own thing. But doing this production right now is keeping his mind off like his life right now. So I'm kind of looking forward to it being done. And at the same time, the new Grizzly Pear Comedy Club will be opening soon. Looking for mid-August. If you want to see my posts, I post all my shows throughout the week. Go to either Grizzly Pear or my Instagram, Cuban is Funny.
There you go. And I got a buddy of mine from South Carolina. Funny, he's going to be in August in New York City. Maybe get a spot at the show.
Cool.
There you guys go. But thanks for joining us, fellas.
Have him hit me up,
everybody. You got it. As for me, everybody, I'm going to be in Fort
Myers
at
guys.
the
See you later, Joey.
Comedy Cafe in Fort Myers is Thursday through Saturday. And then I'm going to be at the Chadwick's Comedy Club the week after, the 15th and 16th of July in Medford, Oregon. And then Joker's Comedy Club in Richland, Washington, the weekend after that. Go to DougieAlmeida.com for more dates. We got some great shows coming up, guys. Don't forget, we will have a show next week. John DeResta and Greg Krikatos will be joining us. And then 2 weeks, while I'm away, great show. I'm going to have Ahmed on the show and Mike Kaplan together joining us here. If you haven't already, please follow us on Instagram at Wake Up Late with Dougie Show and on Twitter at Wake Up Dougie. And if you haven't, subscribe to us on YouTube. We need the followers on there. I want to get our own YouTube channel name on there to make it more unique. And that's it, guys. Thanks so much. God bless. Please respect your fellow human being. Even if you don't see eye to eye on things, realize we're all in this. We all trying to learn day by day. Nobody knows what's really there until it is, like Joey said earlier. Sometimes the facts end up coming into fruition. So don't look like an idiot and fucking try to judge when you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You know what I'm saying? I believe in the philosophy, you don't know what you don't know. And there's a lot of people that need to realize that today. God bless everybody. Take care. And we'll see you next time right here at the same spot.
Wake up. Wake up.